When reading a great novel, many people just can't wait to get to the end of the book. Some people actually jump ahead hundreds of pages and read the last chapter just to see what happens. Humans have an innate desire to get to the end. Imagine reading a novel and finding that the author just stopped writing 5 or 6 chapters from the end. How satisfied would you be with that author? In the same way, when a speaker doesn't think through his or her conclusion properly, audience members are often left just as dissatisfied. In other words, conclusions are really important. I have seen many students give otherwise good speeches that seem to fall apart at the end. I've seen students end their 3 main points by saying things such as, "Okay, I'm done," or "Thanks, now what? Do I just sit down?" I mean, it's understandable to feel relief at the end of the speech, but remember, as a speaker, your conclusion is the last chance you have to drive home your ideas. When a speaker opts to end the speech with an ineffective conclusion, or worse, no conclusion at all, the speech loses the energy that's been created, and the audience is left confused and disappointed. Instead of falling prey to emotional exhaustion, remind yourself to keep your energy up as you approach the end of your speech, and plan ahead so your conclusion will be an effective one. So the purpose of a good conclusion is simple. It helps with the memory of the speech for the audience, and it signals the end. That's right, sometimes you need a signal. The first job of a conclusion is to restate the thesis. It's the first step in a powerful conclusion, and when we restate the thesis at the conclusion of our speech, we're attempting to re-emphasize what was the overarching main idea of the speech. After restating the speech's thesis, the second step in a powerful conclusion is to review the main points of your speech. One of the biggest differences between a written and oral communication is the necessity of repetition in oral communication. When you preview your main point in the introduction, effectively discuss and make transitions in the main body during the speech, and finally review the main points of the conclusion, you increase the likelihood that the audience will retain the main points after the speech is over. Just as a gymnast dismounting the parallel bars of the balance beam wants to stick the landing and avoid taking 2 or 3 steps, a speaker wants to stick the ending of the presentation by ending with a concluding device instead of, "Well, I guess I'm done." Here I have 2 icons, one for informative speaking and one for persuasive speaking. You'll see these on the next slides when to use each concluding device, and it will depend on the type of speech you're giving. Just as you had a hook for the introduction, you'll have something special to help you end the speech as well. The first way to end a speech could be a challenge. It is a call to engage in some kind of activity that requires a contest or special effort that is connected to the main points of the speech in some way. Issuing a challenge is a powerful way to end a speech, and it works best with persuasive speeches. The second way you could conclude a speech is by reciting a quotation that is relevant to your speech topic. When using a quotation, you need to think about whether your goal is to end on a persuasive note or an informative note. Some quotations will have a clear call to action, while other quotations summarize or provoke thought. Linking the ending quotation to a beginning quotation is a technique called making an echo, and it is a powerful way to let the audience know the speech has ended. You can use this technique with either informative or persuasive speeches. The purpose of a conclusion that refers to the future is to help your audience imagine the future you believe can occur. If you're giving a speech on the development of video games for learning, you could conclude by depicting the classroom of the future where video games are perceived as true learning tools and how those tools could be utilized. More often, speakers use visualization of the future to depict how society would be or how the individual listeners' lives would be different. If the speaker's persuasive attempt worked, in this use of visualization, the goal is to persuade people to adopt the speaker's point of view. By showing that the speaker's vision of the future is a positive one, the conclusion should help to persuade the audience to help create this future. This also works with informative speeches. Probably the most common persuasive concluding device is the appeal for action or the call to action. In essence, the appeal for action occurs when a speaker asks her or his audience to engage in a specific behavior or a change in thinking. When a speaker concludes by asking the audience to do or to think in a specific manner, the speaker wants to see an actual change. Whether the speaker appeals for people to eat more fruit, buy a car, vote for a candidate, oppose the death penalty, or sing more in the shower, the speaker is asking the audience to engage in action. This works best with persuasive speeches. Another way you can end a speech is to ask a rhetorical question that forces the audience to ponder an idea. Maybe you're giving a speech on the importance of the environment, so you end the speech by saying, "Think about your children's future. What kind of world do you want them raised in? A world that is clean, vibrant, and beautiful, or one that is filled with smog, pollution, filth, and disease?" Notice, you aren't actually asking the audience to verbally or non-verbally answer the question. The goal of this question is to force the audience into thinking about what kind of world they want for their children. You can use this technique with either persuasive or informative speeches. The last concluding device is reference to one's audience. This concluding device is when a speaker attempts to answer the basic audience question, "What's in it for me?" The goal of this concluding device is to spell out the direct benefits of a behavior or thought change and what's in it for the audience members. For example, a speaker talking about stress reduction techniques could conclude by clearly listing all of the physical health benefits stress reduction offers. In this case, the speaker is clearly spelling out why audience members should care and what's in it for them. As this involves some kind of change, it is best reserved for persuasive speeches. So now it's your turn. By now you will have seen how to research a speech, how to write a good introduction, how to research and write the body of the speech and create an outline, and now you've seen how to write a good conclusion. Now you're ready to write your speech.